everybody, and finally welcome back to the channel. The Z, as you can see, is back on the road once again. It's been running strong for the past few days since I got it fixed. When I left you guys off last in November, I told you that I was planning on replacing the gallery gaskets. I was going to have to take the timing cover off. I was probably going to do the radiator as well, and I told you guys I was going to give you update videos along the way. But oftentimes, as has been on this channel, things don't go according to plan. This is one of the few times where it's actually gone better than planned. So let me kind of catch you guys up on what's been going on over the past couple of months. So back in November, I had proceeded to drain out all of the different fluids that were in the car. I had taken the oil out, taken the coolant out, and I had even purged the AC in preparation for having to remove the radiator, the condenser. I did go ahead and buy a CSF triple pass radiator to upgrade the Z. I have been experiencing some slightly hotter oil temps ever since supercharging the vehicle. On the freeway, it oftentimes will cruise at about 220 degrees Fahrenheit, which is technically still within operating temperatures, but when I get on the track and everything, it is probably going to overheat. So I was hoping that an upgraded radiator, being able to keep the engine coolant temperature down, may also impact the oil a little bit as well. Otherwise, I was going to probably throw on a second oil cooler. But I had gotten all of the fluids drained. I'd actually taken the bumper off. I'd already removed most of the supercharger parts. And then shortly after Christmas, I began working on the car again. It was maybe the 27th or the 28th, where I was really beginning to dive in and get this car taken apart. And right before going to remove the radiator core support, I began to have a little bit of a think. You see, originally what set this off was the few engine codes I had, being a low oil pressure as well as timing advance, which oftentimes low oil pressure will cause timing issues. I began to think about that a little bit and realized that I do know that my oil level on that day was a little bit low, which could possibly have been causing the oil pickup to pull in some air. I also remembered that I was having an oil leak from where the timing solenoid was. I had given you guys a theory last time that the timing solenoid itself may have been a little bit damaged. That was probably why it was causing an oil leak from that location. So I decided to go ahead and check this part out before going through the motion of removing the radiator and the radiator core support, and before diving into the timing chain to check to make sure that nothing was out of whack there. So I did manage to find the fault, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a picture now on screen of what it was that I managed to find. That is the VTC solenoid, and half of it is clearly missing. When I was installing the supercharger on this car, there was a step where you had to bend the coolant line out of the way. I had been using a hammer at one point to try and move this out of the way, and it must have struck the VTC solenoid and caused it to break like that. So yeah, moral of the story here, guys, if you see something obvious like an oil leak coming from somewhere where it shouldn't, you should check the easy stuff first. Don't assume that it's your gallery gaskets. Don't let people try and throw other suggestions at you. Fix the obvious stuff first. I was totally prepared to go in, take the timing cover off, remove the gallery gaskets, get them replaced, double check the timing, when in fact it was really just that single timing solenoid part, and it had caused an oil leak. Most of my oil had been drained out, and that's what had caused my oil pressure to just completely drop. So, completely simple fix. Unfortunately, I already did go and buy a bunch of spare parts already. I got a new radiator core support, the upgraded triple pass radiator. All that stuff is now going to be sitting in storage until I have time later in the future to go and install all of these upgraded parts. But at that point, I'll probably will go ahead and just do my timing cover and everything. I know I told you guys I was going to do that in a video here shortly, but since I don't need to replace those parts right now, and I know a lot of you guys are waiting on the supercharger review videos and things, that's just something that's going to be a future project for the vehicle. I'm not going to bother with it now because I don't have to, but those parts will be for a future project. But for today's video, I just want to tell you guys, car is working again. I want to give you guys a brief review of the supercharger kit and my experience with it, as well as show you a couple of other little cosmetic changes that I've made to the Z since I was last making videos. So let me give you guys a quick review of this supercharger kit, because a lot of y'all have been asking. I'll do a more detailed review in a future video once it's been dynoed and everything. But for a quick review for my first 2,500 miles, this kit is absolutely amazing. No complaints at all. I love the fact that Top Guns is able to give you color options for how you want your intake plumbing to be painted, so it matches the car quite nicely. I've really had no complaints about it so far. It has been driving pretty smooth. It is a little bit noisy at times. This Vortec V3 supercharger, you can very clearly hear it. That's not really a big issue for me. Personally, I like hearing the mechanical noises a little bit, and to me it almost sounds a little bit like like a jet engine when you're decelerating and coming to a stop. I think the noises are absolutely awesome. But if you're really more into a quiet ride, just know that this kit is not going to be quiet. The blow-off valve is very audible. I went with the Precision Turbo blow-off valve, which is the quieter of the two options. You can also get a teal blow-off valve as well, which is a little bit noisier. But even with the quiet option, you're still going to hear the blow-off valve, which again, not an issue for me, but for those of you looking for a more quiet ride, it is going to be a little bit noisy. Now, the only noise complaint that I have is that when that blow-off valve is actuating, whenever you're below maybe 3,000 RPM, giving it barely any throttle whenever you're cruising, that blow-off valve is going to make quite a lot of flutter noise through the supercharger housing. I've been talking with Aaron from Top Guns on this. The noise is apparently completely normal. You get a lot of resonance from pressure going back through the housing, and it just makes a very annoying fluttering noise constantly whenever you are cruising. That's my only complaint about the noise on the supercharger kit. Let me try and get some sound clips for you guys, both at cruise, as well as some blow-off valve noises and things for you guys. Up the supercharger itself, so you can kind of get an idea of what the noise sounds like. As I said, it is a very mechanical noise. You can very clearly hear the blower going. So just be mindful of that. If you do decide to get this kit, it is going to be quite noisy. Now, as for the performance, this thing absolutely rips. So this is the first car that I've ever owned with a modified supercharger or turbocharger installed on it. So I've never really experienced this sort of power before. It's absolutely crazy if you're not used to it. So right now, my rough estimates is it's probably around 500 wheel horsepower. Most of those power gains feel like they are a little bit higher up in the rev range, which is what you would expect. With superchargers like this, your boost is obviously governed by your engine speed. When I'm below about 3,000 or 4,000 RPM, I don't feel too much of a difference. It almost feels stock, and that's kind of what I was wanting. I don't want crazy amounts of power when I'm just trying to go and get groceries or anything around town. But when I really get my foot on it and I begin to climb in that rev range, man, that supercharger, when it starts to build boost, it just absolutely takes off. I'm currently spinning my wheels right now in 4th gear at full throttle whenever I'm trying to data log for Eugene while we're tuning the vehicle. It's absolutely crazy, guys. If you're not used to it, it can be a little bit scary. But this is a serious amount of power coming from this vehicle. It's been fairly reliable so far. I haven't had any issues outside of the problem that was just due to the fact that I damaged a part during installation. It has been running really strong for these first 2,500 miles, and I'm absolutely happy with the amount of power that I'm making so far. Now, as I said, I will do a more detailed review of this supercharger kit in a future video, but let's go ahead and take this thing for a test drive and show you guys just how insane this is. Now, I am pretty crap at launching here. I don't really like to tear up the clutch too much. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a launch, and I'm probably going to be babying the throttle a little bit just because of how loose the surface here, but check this out. Already. Now, obviously, I didn't do the best at launching it, but the car is just so fast. You can't even appreciate the speed, really, because you just get up to 40, 50, 60 so fast with the supercharger kit. Woohoo! Crap! Braking traction there in 2nd gear really bad. We're going to do a little bit of a pull here. car is just riding on an insane amount of power right now. I mean, yes, there are more powerful Z's out there. This car is probably only putting down maybe about 500 to the wheels. There are tons of Z's running this kit that are running ethanol, putting out way more than that, closer to 600 or so. But 500 on the street is just insane. It's almost scary, actually. Anytime I'm ever having to do a pull like that, it's a little bit frightening. I have gotten wheel spin in 4th gear. It will spin in 2nd if you're putting down full throttle. So you do have to be a little bit careful. I do need to upgrade the tires on this car to make it a little bit more manageable. The Nitto triple nickels that I've got on there right now are just not up to snuff. But yet you can still daily drive this car around town, and I have been doing that for the past 2,500 miles. I mean, it is a little bit noisy. The constant whipple coming from the Supercharger, just the constant flutter, does get on my nerves just a little bit, but for the most part, the extra noise isn't a big issue for me. As I said earlier, some of you guys out there that really appreciate a quiet ride might have a bit of an issue with it. That's the only downside, I think, really to this kit, is how noisy it can be. But as I said, I will give you guys a more in-depth view of the Supercharger, review it a little bit more in a future video. Now, there are a couple of cosmetic finishes that I've made to the Z that I haven't really shown you guys on YouTube yet. If you follow my Instagram at the Carizon, you would have already seen these, so give me a follow there if you want a sneak peek of everything that's to come. But for those of you who haven't seen them before, for the first time here on my YouTube channel, here are the new A-pillar gauge pods that I've gone ahead and installed in the 370Z. This double pod A-pillar is truly quite special. It's custom made by Gale Force 370. His Instagram information is down below. He custom makes these out of his shop in Canada, and it does run you a pretty penny. The double pod like this is about $500, while the single pod I think is something like $350. But he does custom make each one to order, and I think it really is worth the money. He's the only person out there that actually makes an A-pillar. I searched for hours trying to find somebody that made an A-pillar like this so I can install my gauges here on the side. And after hours of research, I finally found on the 370 page, Gale Force had made one for his car, and a bunch of people have been asking him to make them so that other people can have these as well. And fortunately, he was willing to do so, so he's already had several orders come in. But yeah, it's just really nice. Matches the factory color of the trim very nicely. It almost looks like it's factory. It integrates the same OEM style rings that you see on the triple gauge pod into the A-pillar pod as well, so it just looks like it's part of the car. It looks stock. And then of course I've got my glow shift 50mm gauges here, which of course have the nice feature of being able to change the colors of the gauges themselves. Fully digital display as well. I've got my boost gauge as well as my fuel pressure gauge down there. Was debating adding possibly a oil pressure sensor and then just doing an oil pressure gauge as well, but he doesn't make a triple pod, unfortunately. You can really only get them up to double, but absolutely fantastic piece. You'll recall that these two gauges used to be installed down in my glove box, but now I can display them proudly here on the A-pillar. Highly recommend Gale Force 370 if you guys are looking for a gauge solution for your vehicle. And then the other addition I want to show you guys real quick is actually on the outside of the car. I've gone ahead and installed the Evo R DRL lights here. And before you guys comment down below, yes, the Evo R kit is not the best. These DRLs are known to have issues with the LEDs going out. In fact, you guys can already see I've lost one there. But I am, like a lot of people, just going to go ahead and upgrade those LEDs. I really just didn't want to spend the extra $1,300 to get the proper OEM DRLs. So I just went with the 500, got the Evo R ones, and then I'll upgrade the LEDs at a later date. But so far, I think they look pretty good for the money. And coming back inside now because it is just way too cold out there. I think it's like 30 something outside here in Texas. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. Just wanted to give you guys an update, let you know that the car is fixed, showcase some little things that I've ended up putting on the vehicle since I was last making videos. Hopefully the videos will continue a little bit more frequently now that the car is fixed. Hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to make them for you guys. So the expectation now is the next video I'll do will probably be on tuning the car. I'm going to be working with Eugene Turkov, as you guys already know. I'm going to do a video on how the whole tuning process pretty much works, especially when you're doing remote tuning, how to look at data logs, that sort of thing. So there's going to be a lot of great stuff in the next video, and then after that we'll actually be taking it to a dyno and getting it checked out to see how much power we're actually putting down. But yeah, this kit so far has been absolutely amazing. The only issues that I've had have been due to complications with the install. It's just been been an amazing kit overall, and I highly recommend it if you guys are looking to boost your 370Z. Oh, and by the way guys, I just spoke with Eugene Turkov. He and I are planning on doing a Q&A session where we are going to talk about the whole tuning process, get into some of the insider information about tuning. So if you guys want to ask him any questions, leave a comment down below. Let me know that the question is for Eugene, and when I do the Q&A video with him, we'll try and answer everybody's questions. So just want to give you guys an opportunity to be able to speak with him yourselves. So thank you guys for watching this video. I apologize for the shoddy camera work here. I was experimenting with a new type of filter that really wasn't doing me any good. Also, the timing was a bit bad in some of my shots, so I'm sorry about the sun there. And then I'm also trying to work around some of the audio issues with the Supercharger because of how loud it is now. It's difficult sometimes to record, but thank you guys for being patient about that. I'm going to try and kind of correct that. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Later.